CRN TV is connecting you with the industry leaders who are protecting us from the latest security threats. Join me, Cass Cooper, as we highlight the expertise of women who are driving innovation and solving today's toughest cyber challenges. Welcome to Channel Women in Security. Hello, everyone. My name is Cass Cooper. Welcome to another episode of Channel Women in Security. I'm very excited for this conversation with my Canadian neighbor, Julie. Hi, Julie. How are you?
Hey, Cass. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. So tell us a little bit about yourself so that listeners know who you are, and then we'll get into the questions. How's that sound?
Yeah, that's often a very loaded question because I come from such a varied background. So I work in cybersecurity. I used to work on the technical side. I've mostly managed software QA departments, built those kinds of departments for a very long time. I switched to the business and development side, marketing side. I work for a company based out of Ottawa. We're in the data diode business, which is really just secure data transfer using fiber optics. And so that's our little niche of the cybersecurity world. And I moved to Prince Edward Island, Canada. It is an East Coast maritime province where the home of lobster and really good potatoes.
Sounds like a place that I need to visit, and we'll get into that a little bit. We were talking about that in the pre-show about tourism. So look forward to maybe one day seeing you in person. But let's talk about cybersecurity, marketing, brand development, all of those things. So a lot of cyber companies, cybersecurity infrastructure, service, SaaS, all those things, they struggle to communicate their value, honestly, to non-technical decision makers. We spoke earlier on a different episodes of it's hard to talk in bits and bytes when your client is looking in dollars and cents. So as someone who comes from the technical side and is now on the marketing sales side, how can brands better position themselves in the market? What's a better way to reach and educate potential clients?
I think that brands have to start hiring communicators. First and foremost.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of these great, amazing cybersecurity solutions that we're seeing in the market more and more these days, because it's becoming, more of a, high pressing concern. So we're seeing more solutions. They're being developed by people who are technically minded. These people are builders. They're visionaries. And while they might understand how people think in order to protect against some of the issues that we're seeing, they're not necessarily the best people who are positioned to communicate that messaging. Mm-hmm. And so first and foremost, I would say that brands need to start, first of all, hunting for the right talent to communicate, talent that is very good at communicate complex ideas and translating those into simplistic ideas that can be understood by your target market, if that's who your target market is. Right?
Okay. Yeah. Because I think sometimes maybe there's a gap between what you think your market is and what it actually is. So can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah. I mean, first and foremost, who are you building a product for? Too many times we see the products being built with like this massive solution in mind. And meanwhile, the end user prefers to use Excel, so maybe there's a way for us to kind of, connect. You need to connect with your end users first. And if you're a builder, a highly technical person in cybersecurity, or a pen tester, that's what you do. At the end of the day, your small business client doesn't understand pen testing. They understand hackers. That's all you talk to them about protecting them against hackers. Now you're on their level.
Yeah.
For most small businesses.
Yeah. So how did you make that transition from technical to marketing and business development?
So the transition was interesting because I'm somebody who's neurodivergent. And so that means I have interest in a lot of things. And I've always had a side business. And so I had a marketing company back when I was running tech teams because I was really good at understanding people and speaking with them. I've done science communication online. I did Twitch live streaming. I did artistic and editorial photography. And so I became very good at understanding people who were not in the tech world.
Yeah.
Because I was working with them all the time. I was, there's only 1 degree of separation between marketing and social engineering, right? Going from dealing with things to dealing with people became such a natural process.
Yeah. So like, what are some of the misconceptions that maybe I'm sure people who have worked with you on the technical side who maybe didn't know this part of you and like the multifaceted interests that being neurospicy has, and that comes with. I'm one of them. I'm
Yay.
like, you know, like doing all things. I'm at any given time, I'm in 4 different books because I want to know about all these different interests. So what are some of the biggest misconceptions that people might have had about moving from like a zeros and ones technical role into a social engineering, marketing, almost, what is it, like liberal arts type writing, communicating mind? Like, what are some misconceptions people have?
That it's easy.
Okay, say more.
That it's easy.
So what you're saying is it's a
No.
challenge.
So I always, people are like, oh, coding is so hard and it's so complex and all this stuff. And I'm like, speaking to people it's a language. You're not speaking in, functions and all these things. You're speaking to them in ways that hit their emotions, in consideration of their emotions, in consideration of what scares them, what makes them feel guilty, what they're happy about, what they're going through in their daily life impacts your conversation with them. And so if you think that that is easy, my goodness, most people can't even wrap their heads around a job interview. So, really at the end of the day, it takes, I don't want to say more skills to talk with people. It takes an equal amount of complexity and mastery of complexity to deal with people than it does to deal with technical problems.
Yeah. Speaking of emotions, so a lot of cybersecurity companies market off of fear, right? So like you're going to get hacked. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when, breaches, ransomware, all of that. So do you think that we should shift to a different type of messaging?
I want us to use messaging that is the most effective without exploiting people.
Okay.
So for me, here's the thing. Fear works. But fear only works if it is backed up by real life use cases that appeal to the person's use case. So for example, going to a dentist's office and saying, hey, there are 50 other dentist offices in your city that have been hacked. That can have a real effect on a dentist's profession. Going to a mechanic and saying, hey, 50 dentist offices have been hacked. That's not going to work. And in fact, the mechanic's going to be like, I have other things to do today. Like, get up. And so what I would like to do is appeal to a person's sense of loyalty to their employees, to their families, to their infrastructure, to the things that they have built, especially in the small business community. Let's protect them the same way that we protect them with a lock on the door, and this protects their livelihoods, their investments, the families of their employees. But we do it in a way that is a form of passion, a form of like integrity, not a form of like, ooh, you should be scared of everything.
Yeah. 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 I think that is so profound, but also seems very simple, right? Like it seems like, oh, of course I wouldn't talk to a mechanic about what's happening in a dentist's office. But what I often hear is, well, you use Microsoft, they use Microsoft, and here's the thing that they have that you don't have, rather than really leaning into why the end user should ultimately care about this, especially from a small business mindset.
Yeah, that's an attempt to cut corners. They don't want to get to know the end users. If they're doing that, they're not actually interested in getting to know the mechanic.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is unfortunate because then at the end of the day, that just leaves them open for potential breach and also just turned off to the idea of protecting their digital assets in general. So I would be remiss if I did not use this time to talk about the growing tensions between US and Canada. I kind of want to touch a little bit on it. We're recording this at the beginning of March, so there's some tensions that are rising, and we don't know what this is going to look like over the next 6 months or anything. But how do you see the global changes in policy impacting cybersecurity?
How does this impact us, professionally speaking, let's say? Is that we are deeply intertwined with the Americans. In the defense and intelligence sector, which is where I primarily work in, we're like this. You're brothers and sisters and everything in between, across borders. We collaborate on so many things. And now, like, we're kind of like taking a step back and going, whoa, we're just drinking our maple syrup over here, man. Why'd you do that? What'd you do that for? So what I would say to businesses, right now, the threats that are looming is that interoperability, which is that, you have American providers in this and that. You have potentially have been working with American talent. There are now potential risks here, right? Because if they're talking about not just a trade war, but annexation, which is a bigger threat, now you're looking at, needing to protect your IP, you're needing to protect your supply chain, you're needing to look at the impact that has on your workforce. Because to me, the weakest link in cybersecurity is the human link, right? If somebody feels emotional, anxious, scared, that's going to lead to easier access through phishing attempts. It's going to lead to easy ways to financially, weasel your way into a Canadian company. So, yeah, listen, this is a big deal for Canadian industry right now.
Yeah. I think that the interconnectedness that's, quite frankly, a lot of us probably on both sides of the border take for granted. It is something that we just have to be heightened and aware of. And I like what you mentioned about, when people have a heightened sense of emotion, that is when your organization can be at most risk, because people just are not able to pay as close attention to things that they probably would be better paying attention at. I'm an example of that, right? There's times where I'm not paying attention and I've clicked the phishing thing and I'm like, oh, but immediately after you click it, you're like, why did I do that? Oh my gosh. Well, it's because I wasn't paying attention as closely as I normally would have, because I had life going on in the background. And when we're exasperated in those areas, it does make it harder to pay attention to the cybersecurity risks that maybe we wouldn't even normally make those mistakes as just an average user, let alone like a business choice. So are there any other vulnerabilities that businesses should be more aware of in this looming tension between the US and Canada business?
I think that all of the existing vulnerabilities get heightened now, right? I think that we talked about phishing, for example, that risk becomes heightened because of the play of human emotions. Third-party supply chain risks, right? Third-party risks go into your supply chain, and it's very possible that the widget that is 3-4 degrees of separation is no longer available, but you're highly dependent on that widget. If we look at the GRC scope, that's a big one for organizations, is that little widget that's made, in a country that is inaccessible right now. And then you're looking at all kinds of other risks that, again, our critical infrastructure, I would say right now, needs to really take a look at what's happening and beef up their network security, their physical security, all of these things.
Yeah. So not to leave on all doom and gloom, but looking ahead, what do you see as trending within maybe the next 5 years? We know AI is going to continue to be a thing. We know we have these political tensions, but what else could we be looking forward to in the future?
What I'm looking forward to is that we need to crack the human issue. We have to come up with human solutions to technical problems and not vice versa. We have to start.
That's a bar right there. Human solutions to technical problems.
I really think that has to be some sort of a play by us, and that has to be from those of us who love and enjoy communicating about cybersecurity, much in the same way that we saw science create science communications during the pandemic. We need to create cyber communicators. And then you're looking at, like you said, AI, machine learning, but also UAVs. The drones, the robots. How do we protect smart devices? These are all of the things that are taking over our households, our vehicles. So I really think that we need to start creating more and more specialists towards that. And yeah, the critical infrastructure side, again, the OT cybersecurity world is booming. If you're new to cybersecurity, look into OT cybersecurity. It is a growing field.
Yeah. All right. Well, anything that you want to leave our audience with before we sign off today?
There's so much I want to say, especially if your audience is primarily American. Look, we love you guys. We love working with you guys. We love collaborating with you. You're our friends, you're our neighbors, you're the people that, you create the arts, the music, the culture, and all of that plays into technology. I grew up listening to 80s like breakdancing coming out of New York, and that inspired me when I was learning about tech. So there's a lot of stuff that we're connected, and we will get through all of these trade issues and technology issues, and let's work together to solve human problems.
All right. Well, Julie, thank you for your time. I look forward to seeing you in person real soon. I heard maple syrup, lobster, potatoes. Those are some of my favorite things. So we will figure out a way. Maybe we come up with something creative and put them all together.
You got to bring me some Krispy Kreme donuts, though.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I'll bring you that if they allow it across the border.
Yes.
Thank you for watching Channel Women in Security from CRN TV. Be sure to subscribe for more stories from the women who are shaping cybersecurity, breaking barriers, and making their mark on the channel ecosystem.